What is your name and where are we?
My name is Jacoby Kang, and I am in my home
Yeah, in Austin.
in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
How do you and I know each other?
We know each other through a mutual friend, Ryan, who connected us because he thought that the work that you were doing would be good for the work that I'm doing and kind of the journey along the way. Yeah. So,
He was right. Okay, hard question.
okay.
What do you want out of life?
Wow, he's just straight, just going at it, going into it. What do I want out of life? I would like to help people connect more effectively. Something that I've been really working on in my own life is to find friends and find meaningful relationships. And the reason that it became so important to me was that when I had first moved to Austin, I hadn't known anyone. And I also was going through a hard time with a breakup and having to quit a job that I didn't really enjoy. And so the combination of all those things made it even more important that I found people in my life that could support me during that time and taught me a lot about the power of finding those meaningful relationships. And so I want to share that with other people because I know that the impact that that had on me was such a powerful one, and know that especially nowadays with where society where society is, it's becoming more of a need than ever to find some of those meaningful relationships.
Yeah, how'd you do that?
How do I help people, or how did I do that for myself?
Yeah, you said you wanted connections, but the way you worded it sounded like you have already accomplished that.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I think back to when I first moved here and I didn't know anyone, I was saying yes to everything. I want to build a network of people from which I can then choose, who I can invest in. And during that same time, I was going to a place called Barton Springs, which is a public pool in Austin, where I would invite some of those people that I had met who I wanted to invest more in to share that activity together of plunging in that water. And afterwards, we would talk and have more of those meaningful conversations that allowed us to deepen our relationship. And then from that point on, we would go to concerts together, we would eat food together, and I would meet some of those mutual friends that they had that allowed me to expand from the network that they had.
This got pretty big.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it speaks to how, like I said before, how much of a need it is and how people are craving this connection to others. And I can go in about, I mean, we've talked about this. I can go in with why that's the case, with with where the times are at right now. But I think that's the reason why it's become so big, is that people are wanting to connect and find a sense of belonging.
Tell me more about the Barton Springs project.
Yeah, man, when when I was going through that rough point in my life and saying yes to everything, I tried so many different activities or techniques that I would hear from podcasts or books, from, doing breath work to going out to do yoga to all these crazy things, and none of them worked. And when I had exhausted all of my options, people kept talking to me about this Barton Springs place and how special it is. And I finally decided to go to Barton Springs and check out what people were talking about.
What is it?
It's a public pool in Austin, Texas, that people can go to swim or to read a book. There's a field around the pool as well. It's a big pool. It's a big public pool. Maybe, I mean, I would say maybe a couple of football fields length of a pool, just to kind of give some idea of how big the pool is. And when I had stepped into that place, there's something and I still can't really put a finger on it, but there's something magical about the place. The people there are really friendly. Um, it the water is just cold enough to where you're feeling like you're doing something challenging, and it allowed me to feel this kind of sense of like rejuvenation going in that water, and then also being around people who were really nice at the end of the day. And that was the first moment that allowed me to kind of feel back to some semblance of what life was like before being in this tough place. And I just got obsessed with that feeling, and so I started going every morning, and that eventually turned into my friends coming and their friends coming, and eventually getting kicked out of Barton Springs because there were too many people that were coming, which is I think a sign of something working that I can now appreciate. Back then, it was a time that I was stressing out a lot because I didn't know what the next steps were. But thinking back, it was just a sign of success, the small sign of success that it was back then. Yeah.
So you outgrew Barton Springs,
Yeah.
but you knew you had something.
Right.
So what'd you do next?
Well, I had a decision to make, right? I could either stop. Really, I didn't have any experience hosting that many people. I'm naturally an introvert, and I don't know, it might be hard for people to believe because I'm in front of so many people all the time, but it doesn't come naturally to think about how to host and what the next steps are. But obviously, I didn't want to stop because it was something that was meaningful to me, and something that there was something there that at the time I wasn't able to answer, but something that I wanted to continue doing because it was something that fulfilled me at the time. And so what I did was reach out to other venues in the area to start hosting these gatherings. And there's a place called Kuya that is a wellness center in Austin that has cold plunges and saunas and a lounge area that allowed me to host the gatherings there for some time, and that was a special time to now that I think back to, because it was kind of the evolution of what it was back at Barton Springs. Because now I had to start thinking about some of the logistical things of working with the venue, and thinking about it forced me to start thinking about monetizing, because there was fees associated with the venue, right? So these are all things that I didn't really have to think about at Barton Springs because it was free, but it challenged me to think about some of these issues that ultimately I am glad that I learned, because it was just one step further to ultimately get to a point of like doing business and entrepreneurship.
Is that something you had started in mind, or is that something like, did you feel like an entrepreneur when you started? Is it like an accidental thing?
It was definitely accidental. If I hadn't been kicked out of Barton Springs, I don't know if I would have still been at Barton Springs, but I was not thinking about how to monetize before. I just enjoyed, like I said, it was something that I did for myself and something that I enjoyed sharing with other people. And I never thought about having to charge at that time. So it's just something that naturally I was forced to think about.
But you liked it.
I enjoyed it. I think this is some of the experiences that I had that I wasn't necessarily told, is like my passion for the work that I do, I found along the way. So there are different components of business that I didn't know about. And because I didn't know about it, I didn't know that I enjoyed it. And so working with venues, not really something that I enjoy, but having to make content, for example, as a way to promote is something that I realized I enjoyed doing. And that's not something that I would have gotten that's not something that I would have had the chance to try had I not gone deeper into the work that I was doing.
You don't have to do marketing unless you have a business to market.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tell me about the final evolution. Like, where is it now?
Well, I wouldn't say it's the final evolution.
Sorry. Tell me about the current.
The current evolution. There you go.
I love that. Fair.
There you go. The current evolution of it is actually right now it's December of 2024 and the weather is getting much colder, right? And it's the holiday season. And so we've actually noticed that people aren't as inclined to cold plunge right now than back in the summertime. And so we actually put a pause on the events until the new year. And with that, people are wanting to do their New Year's resolution and get, back into the kick of health and everything. And so our thought process was, why don't we, give people a break, let them, do their thing, and give our volunteers and the people that we work with a break as well to have kind of some new ideas that we can test out for the new year. So that's kind of where things are in the current moment.
What about? But there's more to it. I know there's more to it because you did.
Yeah.
You're selling you're selling plungers.
Oh, right.
You're not at that space anymore. Like, do you want to go into any of that or?
Yeah, so that's a good thing that you bring up because that opportunity was brought up because my events were so centered around cold plunging that I had a buddy of mine reach out and say, hey, have you ever thought about selling cold plunges at your events? Naturally, people are coming to cold plunge, so those are already leads that we can convert to eventually buy these cold plunges. And I eventually acquired some cold plunges and started selling them to people that came to my events. And what I realized through that process is it's something that I wanted to test out, right? It's a kind of a new revenue source of the business that I was doing, but it's also something that I didn't think about, something that got presented to me and giving me a lot of opportunity to learn in a completely different industry. Something that I did learn is that I don't love selling a physical product as much as I love bringing people together, right? And so it almost highlighted the passion even more to focus on bringing people together and how to do that effectively than anything else. Yeah.
So I met you a couple weeks ago. We had a great talk.
Yeah.
And from the outside, I think a lot of people see this young kid. He runs up. He starts this really interesting event space.
Right.
And then he turns into a business.
Right.
Which I know business well enough to know that it always looks great from the outside.
Right.
But I also know that you're wrestling with some of this stuff.
Of course.
So could you give me like a glimpse of where's your head at right now with all of this? What is it that you said from the very, very beginning, you want to bring people together.
Yeah.
So you're doing that. There's a business component to it.
Right.
How do you feel about all of this right now?
I would say right now, the short answer is that I feel, I do feel a little uncertain. And the reason for that actually is that with me taking a pause, and the pause was a result of the decline in attendance, right? So with the weather and the time of the year and the holidays and everything. And I think when that happened, it made me feel not great about my business, because when numbers are going down, you're like, what is going on? And what it actually highlighted was what my purpose is with these events. Because the current structure of it is very unstructured. So people are welcome to come at any point and try anything that they want, meet anyone that they want. And when I started to think about, when I was actually forced to start to think about some of these things that were happening as part of my event, it made me realize that it wasn't really helping people build on meaningful relationships. It was allowing people to meet, but I realized that it wasn't really doing the thing that I set out to do. And a lot of that was actually overshadowed by the attention that these events were getting in the summertime, right? So I realized I've always had this idea that there was some misalignment with the event that I was hosting, but I ignored it because of, again, how many people were coming and how many people were telling me how good of a job that I'm doing and how much attention that I was getting. And it made me ignore some of these thoughts that I talked about. So now I'm spending more time thinking about how I can come back to alignment and think about ways to more effectively build on some of those meaningful relationships that people can have once they do come to an event of mine. Yeah.
I think this is the most common, the problem you addressed, the American
Yeah.
lack of the loneliness epidemic, as
Sure.
I call it.
Yeah.
I think Austin is like trying to solve this
Right.
better than anywhere else I've ever been.
Yeah.
But then I see that problem that you just said, which is a lot of people are social,
Right.
but not in as, like, people are out and hanging out, but not developing relationships.
Right.
Is that kind of what you're?
Yeah, and and to be totally frank, I noticed that in myself, right? Like I am around so many people yet feel lonely. Well, why is that the case, right? I actually had this thought this morning. Is it is it the lack of options or is it my behavior, right? I had this moment on Monday where I had committed to a workout at 4:30 with my friend who does it every Monday. And I also got invited to another friend's jujitsu practice. I love both of them, right? But I have to choose because it's at the same time. And there's only so much time throughout the week that I can allot to friend time. And if I don't have consistent touch points with individuals, that doesn't develop meaningful relationships, right? And so that made me think, am I part of the problem? Or is it that there are, again, a lack of options, like lack of these structures or these programs or these events? And I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to that question yet.
You have two friends who are inviting you to something. You want to go to both. You obviously can't go to both.
Right.
How does that make you the problem?
Because if I choose to go to the one that is new, then I'm not spending time with the friend that I invested in. So I'm starting fresh, right? And there's a cost associated with starting new friendships because you are not spending that other time with the other friend, right?
It's kind of like I often say, I call it first date syndrome.
Right.
And so you're like, well, I can go on this great first date with this great
Yeah,
person, but then
right.
if I give that relationship up in 3-6 months,
Right.
even though it's not first date, you're
Right.
always kind of starting fresh.
Right. And there's a high cost associated with that. And I don't know if people really understand what that cost is because we're so in the immediate, like, trying to get satisfaction immediately. And that just doesn't promote some of these, one, meaningful relationships, but also two, the benefits of having a longer relationship. The good stuff doesn't happen until later. People don't give a shit about you in the first 3 months of knowing them. That happens after a couple of years, right? And so if you're not able to reap some of these benefits, and I can see why it's easy to kind of bounce around, but this idea of first stage syndrome is definitely present in both, friendship and dating as well.
Yeah, the friend who's going to invite you to Thanksgiving,
Right.
That's years.
Yeah.
Or
right.
the friend who's going to come, pick you up from jail.
Right.
It's not the person you met 3 months ago.
No.
Maybe you might get lucky.
You might get lucky.
But it's the person who you probably pick them up from jail.
Of course.
One day, and you have some skin in the game.
Yeah, 100%. It's the like 4 a.m. friend, the person that you can call at 4 a.m. even if there's nothing wrong, and know that there's a pretty good chance that they will pick up, even if it's just to say, hey, I'm having a hard time sleeping, can we talk for a little bit? And that just doesn't really exist nowadays. I'm honestly, I talk to a lot of people, and I'm shocked at how many people who seemingly look like they have a lot of friends but don't. It's shocking. It's shocking, and I think it just speaks to the lack of it. And I am worried about that in the future, and even like for the younger generation too, what that looks like for them.
Well, it's a problem for me, and I'm 41, so I know.
So it has everyone. It doesn't discriminate.
Yeah,
right.
It's getting worse. Yeah, I love that you think about this though, because I am surprised how few people notice.
Yeah.
They're like, why am I 40 and lonely?
Right.
And I have no meaningful relationships. It's very common.
It is very common. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into it. There are a couple of theories we talked about.
Well, I do want to get into it.
Sure.
But first, I want to know who you picked.
Who I picked? I ended up picking. It was actually Ryan or my other both of them. Now that I think about it, both their names are Ryan. I ended up picking the new person, right? So it's like, why am I doing that? It's because I tell myself, oh, Ryan's gonna understand,
And you will.
And he will, but at the end of the day, like anything else, you get what you put in. And relationships, at the end of the day, are work that you have to put in to, again, get the meaningful relationship that you're wanting. And so it's not enough to say that the person will just get it. And in my mind, it's like, okay, I'll spend time with the new person and just reschedule with Ryan, right? But the reschedule could happen, the next week, or something comes up and it's the next week, and all these things that tend to snowball, and then eventually, maybe it is a couple of weeks until you see the person again.
Yeah, tell me more, because you said if I wanted to get into it.
Yeah, some of the theories. Theories in terms of friendship or relationships, or I think there are a couple different theories for both. I've been studying more relationships these days, but I don't know.
You're single right now?
I'm single right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about dating in Austin.
I can't really, because I'm not really dating much. So I'm kind of the wrong person to ask, but I can tell you what it's like not to date that much, or why it's so hard to date in Austin. For whatever reason, it feels like there's this sense of not knowing where as a man I fit into the relationship. I don't know what it means to be a man anymore in a relationship, I grew up super traditional. I'm Korean, and it's a pretty patriarchy society. I mean, even nowadays. And so women had their roles and men had their roles, and they were clear. And it feels like, especially now, it's unclear. And so knowing what the meaning of a relationship is, to me, very difficult, and how I can show up for the person. And so that's been one challenge that I definitely had to kind of think about. I think in terms of like one topic is like dating apps and what the effects of that looks like. When you have so much access to people, the winners, the top percentile of people are going to eat, and everybody else is not, right? And so the effects of that is that it doesn't promote commitment, or it doesn't promote these behaviors that result in long-term relationships, healthy relationships, because the top guys who all the girls want are getting a pick of the litter, right? And so if you're a guy in that bucket, why would you commit to anyone, right? And then if you're in the 90% of the guys, you're not getting anything, right? And then vice versa on the other side. If you're a woman, then you're all going for the same guys, right? But then you see that the guys are non-committal, and then you complain that they're non-committal, and your other options are these other 90% in your mind who are not up to the standard that you're wanting, right? And so that's some of the kind of effects of what dating apps do. And I think it also doesn't help that having access to things like social media, where you're seeing people who are having the most happy and successful and hot, lives there, that they're really not, right? You're just getting to see it, but I think that it creates a gap from the reality to what is actual, from the optics on social media to what is actually going on, that heightens some of the expectations that both men and women have for each other. And this idea of individualism is not something that we were all, as humans, meant to embody. It's just something that I think creates even more of a disconnected world, and that's kind of the world that I feel just in my own experience and see, especially in a place like Austin.
You do a great job of articulating this problem.
Thank you.
But how do you, so what do you do about it? You're just opting out for a little while?
No. What do I do about it? I don't. For me, it's something that I'm open to, but not actively. Like, I'm not actively like going up to girls and like asking them out. If I see someone that I'm interested in, then I'll ask them to, grab a cup of coffee, or find an activity that we can do to get to know each other better. I do think that we're starting to see a shift in people's behavior with the rise in these in-person events, right? And I don't think it's an accident. I think people are starting to feel sick of this feeling of not getting out and not feeling this sense of connection with someone else. And so I think we're actually in, we're in the early stages of what it looks like to come back to earth and take action. And I think it's a really exciting time. Like, we talk about some of the early generation and how there's a group called Raw Dog Run Club, and they become really big. It's these probably kids in their early 20s who bring together all these people to run on a Saturday morning. And the main demographic is, again, kids in their early 20s who are coming together to run on a Saturday morning, and maybe meeting with the intention of dating or going to do other things together. But again, I do think it's a positive. It is something positive that's happening, and people are starting to finally take action.
I see this problem. I'm very interested in this because I'm such a social person, and I have this problem. But it's interesting to hear you articulate it so well.
Yeah, thank you.
And I don't know that many people that are fixing it well. It's hard because it takes I have to go show up,
Right.
and I have to do the same thing you just said, which is I have to then, if I want to be friends with Jacoby, I can't see him twice.
Right.
I can't see him once a year and
Right.
develop a real relationship. I have to sort of say no to all these other people and really pick a handful of people that I'm going to be friends with.
Right. Yeah, I actually, I was reading that for friendship, this is different for business relationships, coworkers, or in dating. But for friendships, it takes about 5 to 10 hours of doing something with the person to, quote unquote, be in the category of, I think, acquaintance, and then about 50 hours for a close friendship. And so there's actually studies being done on how much time, on average, of course, that it takes to actually build a meaningful relationship, which I think is fascinating.
50 hours is a lot of coffee dates.
Yeah, 50 hours is a lot of coffee dates.
That's good to know, though, because then you realize when you're like, well, I gave this person 10 hours.
Right.
Of course you're not best friends yet.
Yeah, and humans are pretty bad at, I think, making decisions. I'll reverse. There are systems in place that make humans make bad decisions.
Like what?
Dating apps.
Well, the dating app's goal is not for you to get off the dating app.
Right, it's to get you to stay on it. And social media too, it's to get you to stay on it. But the more time you spend on it, the less time you're spending actually doing the thing that it's trying to do.
As soon as there's a company that can monetize you and me going out and hanging out
Right.
and having a genuine relationship,
Right,
that'll be the richest company on planet Earth.
Yeah, 100%. And here's the other thing too. We talk about the amount of time that it takes to develop a close relationship. That takes commitment, and it's something that I go back and forth about. Where do you leave it up to the person to where's the line now with how much change that we're trying to create? Do you want to kind of how much hand-holding do you want to do as a business that's trying to do this for someone to actually find a meaningful relationship? It's something that I'm thinking about right now. Because clearly leaving it up to the open, or kind of leaving things out in the open, it's not really working. And so, we talk about adults, mentors, role models. Is that a solution? Is that something that would help? Or are people gonna say, no, I'm an adult, I don't need that, right? You know what I'm saying? It's, where's the line of like hand-holding that's needed in today's society?
Yeah, we're all adults.
Yeah, of course.
And we're messing it up.
Yeah.
Who's gonna come fix it for us?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd like to change topics here.
Sure.
And I want to ask you, we talked a little bit about entrepreneurship. What's your relationship with money like?
Yeah, my family grew up poor, and my dad eventually started his own business and started making more money and did a good job still instilling some of those hard work and those values to us. And then my parents separated. And what was actually really interesting during that time is that when they separated, my mom, for just long story short, didn't have money and never worked, right? And so when I would go to my mom's house, she would have nothing. And when I would go to my dad's house, we could get whatever we wanted. And yet, what's funny actually is that I preferred going to my mom's house because she was more present, and we got to have more of those meaningful conversations. But it also showed me what life looks like on both ends of the spectrum. And
have you ever read Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
I haven't read it. It's such a popular book, but
this is the premise.
Oh, really? Okay.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, not exactly, but kinda, yeah.
Okay. Well,
fascinating.
Well, I think what it made me realize is that I didn't need to have money to be happy. Because again, when I would go to my mom's house, she didn't have any money. She lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, and I was there with my brother, and we were more happy than, when I was with my dad, who had endless, resources. And so it's something that I learned from an early age is not something that ultimately makes me happy. What I more recently have realized is that it is something that is a powerful tool to help you grow. And one of the things that I'm working on now is working with other talented people. And other talented people cost money. You have to pay them, right? And I can't pay them. And so it's not, now the way that I think about it is I don't want to make money so that I can go buy, something luxurious for myself. I want to make money so that I can I can afford to at least work with other talented people, or to pay for some of the tools, or pay for some of the software, or some of the things that I need to help me get to the place that I want to get to. And I don't really spend much on myself, to be honest. But yeah, that's kind of how I think about money right now.
You hang out with other entrepreneurs. Do you think that's the common prevailing thought about money in our culture?
I've always been pretty cheap.
Frugal.
Frugal. Like my dad taught me there's some things that you want to splurge on, but most things really are not worth it. And so from an early age, I think my dad did a good job of teaching us the value of money, and how I think now, honestly, he taught us a lot when we were younger, but also now I'm starting to really understand how hard it is to make $1. And so I think I definitely have more of an appreciation for what a dollar looks like. And again, I would rather spend that dollar on my business than on myself. And so that kind of is how I view money now.
Every entrepreneur and business podcast makes it sound like making money is easy.
No, it's really hard. It's extremely hard. There's so many different things that go into it. It's marketing, sales, and all the things, but to do it right, it's extremely hard.
Do you think your opinion about money will change, or has it changed in the last, say, 3 years?
Yes, because I wasn't responsible for anything else before my business. Now it feels like now I am, not feels like, it is my business. It feels like it's my baby, right? So now I want to make more money so that my baby can grow. So that's how I view it. Those are some of the differences. Before it was like my cost of living just was not very high. I just wasn't spending much. So I didn't have to think about really making so much money or thinking about how I'm going to spend it. And now it's how am I going to make money so I can grow my business. Yeah.
Okay. Belief structures. Like, what do you believe in?
What do I believe in? I grew up Christian in a Southern Baptist church. My mom played the organ at our church and was a big member of our church community. And so we would go multiple times a week. And once I left home, I stopped going to church because I never really understood why I was going to church. And it wasn't until I moved to Austin and was having a harder time that going to church became more of a priority, and I started to go back to church. And as the business got more and more busy, I actually stopped going to church again, and dived more into kind of more spiritual work. And I would say that was the first time that I felt connected to, I don't know what I would call it, but some higher power that sometimes feels like is lifting me up in times of hardship. And I don't know how else to explain it. It doesn't seem it doesn't seem like on this earth, if that makes sense. And so that's something that I feel. I don't know if it's, again, like when I was growing up, something that my mom especially instilled in me, but I definitely have felt at times like something was lifting me up and helping me in times of difficulty.
This is not a super religious town.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah. Does that feel? Did you notice that at all?
Yeah, I think people default to spirituality more in Austin than anywhere else, and that's kind of what to me it boils down to. I don't know. Austin's a interesting place because it's so transient, and you have so many people who are still trying to figure things out. And I think anytime you're figuring things out, you're trying out new things, right? And so religion is one of the more traditional things that exists in this world, and I think people just want to kind of try again, like these different things, which I think people should try at least once or twice in their lives and see how it fits into their lives.
Yeah. Would you like to would you meet a girl at church? Would that work for you? Would that solve some of your...
Honestly, I do think we talk about the adults and role models, right? And structures and rules and values. There are some things that I don't align with in church, but I do think it's one of the closer communities in the modern world that still upholds some of these values and rules that I'm wanting in my life.
Yeah, you talk about, bringing people together, but then you're like, man, I need a structure.
Yeah.
I need some kind of infrastructure.
Right.
And we've talked about this, but church kind of answers all those things. It's got a value system. It's got a hierarchy.
Yeah.
It's got mentors.
Right.
Wise, it's got a book of rules as long as you could, spend time on. Totally. Is there a weird thing where people they're looking for something, but it already exists in church? They just don't want to. They have some sort of...
Here's my theory on it. My theory on it is that people feel that society has failed them and are looking for something new. I think it creates extreme behavior or decisions that are different from the norm because the norm is not something that's working for them. So that's my theory on it. And again, like, you go through cycles, right? and I didn't really realize this was happening in my life, but I was like, I don't like where I'm at in my life, so I have to change something. I'm just guessing, random, and church was one of those things. So I was like, okay, this clearly something's not working, so I need to go change. And I'm not going to go to church, I'm going to go to this workout men's group thing. It's like, all these things that exist in Austin, and that's not working. Okay, so I'm going to go try this other thing. And I think I naturally reverted back to going to church again, right? Because again, I realized it's the closest thing. I was looking for the perfect thing. I was looking for the thing that was gonna solve some of my problems, but the problem is within, and it's something that I realize is not something that happens when I always am constantly looking for something new.
I love that you said that. Is there a solution, or is it sometimes just work? Like sometimes you just have to go work on things for the sake of work, and it's never going to be.
Yeah.
I, as a human being, am never going to be solved.
Right. It's constant. Yeah.
There's always something to be working on, but sometimes it's like the gym.
Yeah.
You don't solve fitness; you enact it.
Right. It's the process, right? It's practice. It's in sports, it's practice, and finding enjoyment in that journey. That is, in my mind, the most important thing, because that translates to these qualities that we all look for in doing it right. So like consistency. So if you are in love with the process, then you're going to be consistent, right? And some other qualities as well. But I think it is, again, about the work that is required to stick with it and work on it. Like one of the things that, and I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud, that my therapist told me when I was in my last relationship is any relationship is about how much work you decide to put in. It's not about, if this person is this way or if you're that way. It's how much work are you going to put into the relationship, right? And I didn't really understand it at that point. It was hard to hear because I was just thinking, okay, if this girl just changes and does this thing, then things are going to be okay. But it's not always like that. It's never like that, really. And so yeah, that's what I would say about it.
She was thinking the same thing about you.
Yeah, she was thinking the same thing about me. And at the end of the day, I think this is what it means to be a man. Partly is to take the first step, take action, right? And masculinity is, again, one of those things that I think about, and it's changed. Modern masculinity is different than what masculinity was before, and yeah, it's taking the first step is one form of masculinity that I think is important for all men to embody. Yeah.
What's hard about life right now? 2024, late 2024.
What's hard about life right now? I would say I was gonna say maintaining my friendships, but I don't think the word's actually maintaining. It's putting in work with my friendships. So much of my work is tied to my personal life that I will reach out to my friends to come to my event, but that's not me hanging out with them, right? And I think in my mind, okay, we had our time together, I'll just invite them to the next event. And that's just not how friendship works. And I definitely started to see my friends like hitting me up less about things that I see on social media that they're all hanging out. And I actually later found out that they thought I was busy.
They think you're focused.
They think I'm focused, but I obviously am not working all the time, right? So it just creates this weird cycle. But something that's tough is, having that, having that sense of belonging with my friends outside of work. That's something that I definitely want to prioritize and right now, for sure.
Give me more.
More.
This is hard.
Something. I mean, the seeing how what the way to help people make friends looks like, right? The product of it, and finding a product market fit for the mission that I have, right? There's so many great things that happen from the work that I was doing, and I think that it still will continue to play a big part in what I ultimately do. And I want to think about ways of really honing in on what it is people really like about the events and how to scale that, right? Because there's a reason why people are coming to my cold plunge events, and that I really had to think hard about and really just ask myself basic questions of why are, for example, fit people coming to my health events, right? One of the things that I realized is when you're changing into your bathing suit, you don't want and you're not in shape, you don't want someone to look at you because you're insecure, about your body. So it naturally filters people out because of that. I didn't realize this until I asked myself some of these questions. What does having an event on Saturday morning do? It probably filters out people who are going on Friday night, right?
Or people with young kids.
Right, or people, yeah, exactly. And so really studying and asking myself some of these hard questions to really identify what is attracting some of these people and why some of these people continue coming, so that I can really hone in on the value and do more of it. So that's something that is a bit of a challenge because I don't know the answer right now, and hopefully I get to hopefully I spend some time, or I will spend some time, and hopefully I'll have some of the answers soon. Yeah.
Okay, soon. Soon's a good segue.
Yeah.
This is a two-part question, but I'm gonna give it to you one at a time.
Okay.
1 year. I'm gonna come to you in December.
Okay.
Of 2025. And what's gonna be different?
What's going to be different? I hope I have a girlfriend then. That would be nice. It is, like we talked about, a very lonely process, and it would be nice to sometimes come home and cook dinner with someone. And
I love that you said sometimes.
Sometimes. I mean, it doesn't have to be all the time. I know, it's one thing that I learned about my last relationship is that it's important to have some time for each other, or for ourselves. And of course, with me building a business and not having all the time in the world, it's not gonna be fair for the other person if they expect me to be around all the time, because I just am not wanting to do that right now. So that's one thing. I'm hoping, one of the things that I think about is having a business partner to help kind of plug some holes that I have in my skill set and my personality, to ultimately make a bigger impact, because it's hard to do it just by myself.
What were those holes? What are you bad at?
I'm bad at details. I'm not really great at management, and it's something that I try to do, and I make work with the the work that I have, but I definitely see that as something that's holding me back from scaling.
I can't help. This is my weaknesses too.
Yeah.
I
right.
can't help you.
And so that's something that I realize that I'm not very good. I'm really not great at a lot of things, but that definitely stands out amongst all of those things. I hope for more clarity, but I also understand that there will always be uncertainty. If anything, more at stakes a year later. And so that's kind of, I don't know how I would phrase that. Maybe learning how to manage my I don't know, lifestyle. So I was feeling pretty close to burnout before, or just more recently, and realized that it's a result of not exercising, not eating right, and all these different things that ultimately caught up to me. And so finding ways to still do some of those things, incorporate some of those things while doing the work that I have, so that I can continue working. I would say that's something that I think about to the best of my ability. Yeah, that's what I would say I would like to have by next year.
You said you're bad at most things.
Yeah.
I love that. I think most people are bad at most things.
I'm bad at
What are you
most
good
things.
at?
I'm good at something that I am good at is adapting to different people and like personalities. So I grew up and moved around a lot, and so I'm used to making friends, new friends, and kind of knowing how to be friends with a lot of people and how to show up for a lot of people. That's something that I'm good at. I've started to, something that people keep talking to me about is my social media, just like engagement. Like I've learned to make social media content, and that's something that kind of gives me some creative outlet. I guess that's something that I try.
You're being too humble.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know.
Just tell me, what do you got? Any superpowers? Like, what are you super good at?
Super good at?
Brag to me for just a moment.
I know, it's something that I struggle with.
I know, but it's just you just have to do it this one time.
Yeah. Good at listening. It's something. So actually, what's funny is that I wanted to become a therapist. After I used to be a software engineer, and then I quit that job, and I was planning to go back to school to get a license in therapy work. And a lot of that actually had to do with me enjoying like listening. I like listening to other people's story. And I have a natural inclination to try to fix them, or like try to help them. It's just something that comes naturally to me. And so that's something that I think I'm pretty good at. And obviously bringing people together, right, for the events, and just how they've grown is something I think that's just a testament to me knowing how to bring people together. Yeah, and there's so many different components to that, right? Because you have to have obviously quality people there and make relationship with them and know how to promote to bring people to that space and all of those things. I think I'm good at identifying talent. It's not, I'm not good at like trying to get talent for like with like no resources. That's something that I'm trying to learn how to do. But I'm good at knowing if someone's like good at something. That's something that I know like if someone's good or not good at something or not, or so whatever.
Am I good at this?
I don't know. Because again, like I don't know you enough. I would have to gather more. I would have to gather more data. I just, we just met. That's my answer.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That hurts my feelings.
I'm a truthful guy.
What do you think you're going to say about when you look back at this in 5 years?
I will say that I'm proud of myself for sticking it through. Like I remember, like I think even now, just to some of those like long, dark drives that I had to make on a Friday night when I know that my friends are all out, where I've had thoughts of like, what am I doing? Or if I get booked out and I'm the last person to leave in the dark and it's raining. And I'm like, what am I doing? And it made me think, it made me think how, one, like how hard it is, but then two, made me realize that it's something that I was able to get through. Yeah, I would just kind of think back to how proud I am in this moment and probably how close I am to really doing the thing that I ultimately want to do. Yeah, I feel like I genuinely do feel like I'm for whatever reason I do feel like I'm close, or like at most like I'm doing the work, like in the process of it. Right, and I do enjoy the process of it, and I'm lucky to have really good people in my life to support me, not only emotionally but also in my business. And so all of the ingredients are there to give me confidence that I'm doing the work right now. So yeah, that's what I would say about myself in this period, thinking back 5 years from 5 years later.
Yeah. What about this interview specifically? You're gonna watch this?
Yeah, of course. Of course, I'm gonna watch this. It's something that I have to see now to see if you're good at answer your question.
We'll see.
Yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, I'm really grateful for people in my life. I mean, for this event, like this is so fascinating to me that someone wants to hear my story. Right? Yeah, I'm always amazed at kind of what the work that I've done kind of have translated into. Yeah. And I have faith that by continuing to work hard and be positive, that a lot of better things, good things will continue to happen.
Yeah, love it. Dude, that's all I got.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Well, you had me. I'm here. I'm here at your house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I saw also my brother. I don't want to kind of interrupt this situation, so I try to keep focus as much focus as I can.
Well, I love this because it's like I did so much of this polished work before.
Yeah.
Where like had to be perfect because it was on social media, and now I want this to be clean, but what I really want is like if I had a third camera with like a BTS back there. Like I like that it looks good.
Yeah.
But I like that it's just a little bit enough raw where you're like, yeah, somebody's walking around in the background, or
right.
maybe there's a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, it feels more real. That's what it is. It feels more genuine and authentic. It's like more of an authentic experience.
Yeah, and right. So I'm kind of figuring out how to do like just the right amount of like, oh, this is cleaned up and clean and nice and polished, and then there's like either a cut or two or like, the last.
It's probably just recording this right now, like a little after, like still like recording before, after like our conversations, I think that's makes it feel more real because people aren't getting a chance to see this. And even
yeah, there's all the joke in podcasting, like all the best content comes 20 minutes before and 20 minutes after
right.
the podcast.
And so honestly, like obviously the core product is, this, but also incorporating some of the behind the scenes conversations, I think that could be its own series. Yeah. I think people would really like seeing, and that's what you're seeing a lot of content creators do these days, is like the couple of seconds after their like shoot, they'll like include that as part of the video.
Yeah, so much BTS, just because, kind of like you said about the expectations between reality and, in dating. Yeah. But then also, like, I see it in content, it got so polished, and now it's, I'm a perfect example. I did so much polished content for so long, and I'm like, the content that's not polished is actually better. Well, so what are we doing?
Well, time out. There's two trains of thoughts. Like, I have friends who are professional, like cinematographers, who are like, fuck that. That's not art. That's not like film. And yeah, I can see like why you put, like, those people put so much effort into the details and all these different things. But it's also a different time, right?
Yeah, I guess I could.
I don't know if you've ever felt that way.
There's certainly a place for cinematography to film a scene where you are made to feel something. Yeah. But I'm not a cinematographer. Yeah. And I'm not doing stories. I'm doing like documentaries. Yeah. But even in documentaries, right? Like, you have like professional documentaries, and then you have shit on Instagram that is not like way low, like literally zero production level. And so, like, probably the most frustrating thing is some of that zero production level videos get like way more engagement than some of the other ones that are so worked at. And so I can see like why, but it's a different game. Like, we live in a different society, and it kind of speaks to the rise of like how influencers can have high value in today's society, because content has become something that you can see everywhere. And so now you're giving power to people who just have an iPhone and can make a video, like short video that they spend maybe 5-10 minutes on, that gets millions of views, right? Yeah. I don't know where my place is in it. I know where, I guess, where I feel like my place is. I'm not trying to make some tricky behind the scenes on purpose. Right. And I'm not trying to make something super polished. I'm trying to make something polished because I love the art, and I like to make people look good. Yeah. But then I don't want to make it so polished that people are like, this is a production. Like, okay, I like making Jacoby look cool. I have all this equipment. I like it. Thanks. And I want you to see that it's not just that. It's like, it's for also, sure, just us in your room.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand the frustration too, because it boils down to who you want to see it, right? Like, because back in the day, if you did shoot something that's high quality, like, you'd have like production companies that would buy it, and like you get paid, and like a lot of people would watch it. But nowadays, there's so much competition that for attention that it kind of it's really about like how fast can you ship it out, which is frustrating again, because like I don't have this lens of like it has to be professional, or like it's like I don't clearly know how to do it, but also like I don't have this like standard that I'm sure if you've been in the industry for a while that you like want to uphold, and it's kind of counter to what's actually getting you some of these views. And again, if you don't care about the views, then it doesn't ultimately matter. But yeah, that's probably the like dilemma that a lot of people face.
Yeah, I don't know what's right. I don't know what's right. I know that I'm making what I like.
Yeah, totally.
And that feels better.
No, 100%. And that's the place to start.
Yeah.
the perfect kind of overlap is when you make the stuff that you like, and if it's a person that you're shooting, if that person, one, gives you the creative freedom to do that and pays you to do it and has a platform that can spread it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the ideal perfect,
Yeah, it's interesting because I really don't have that much interest in going to talk to somebody that's already successful. But I do see a place where some folks such as yourself can, rise and grow over the years, and that'd be fun to have.
Yeah. Right.
But it's not really my aim. I'm not like,
right.
I'm doing this because maybe somebody that I interview will bank on getting some audience. And, I'm not. No, it's just interesting to find people like yourself and be like, dude, you got an interesting story. Let me watch it unfold.
No, yeah, for sure. I appreciate it.
All right, I'm really done.
I appreciate doing that.
Do you need anything else from me?
No. I'm just excited to see it.
Yeah. Was it awkward? Did it feel awkward?
No, not at all.
No.
You're really good at the questions and transitioning, and made me feel like the questions were easy to answer. So.
Yeah, they're about you, so it's very easy.
Oh, my guy. Let me see.
Everybody's favorite subject. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, you want to get the mics real quick?
Yeah, sure.